We were asking last week, what is professional ethics? And we said that professional ethics is actually a vocation founded upon specialized high educational training with the purpose of applying objective counsel and service to others for a direct and definite compensation. Professional ethics encompass the personal and corporate standards of behavior expected of professionals who are engaging the vulnerable or service users. Equally, we said professional ethics is concerned with one's behavior and conduct when carrying out professional engagement or professional duties or professional work. And it is codified and it varies across different culture. We said there must be cultural competence for social worker who is working in any defined area, whether local, state, national, or an international space. Culture differs, and social workers must always think of cultural inclusivity. It must be everyone we engage with in our duty is to ensure that they are treated fairly within the confines of their culture, wherever you find them, especially in cosmopolitan communities. We also said that professional ethics and ethical norms, values, and principles that guide a profession and the ethics of decision is made within the profession. The value, the ethics, the principle that guides a profession is found, is based on the dictates of that profession within the confines of that profession. You cannot use medicine ethics to determine social work ethics. You cannot use the principle of accountants to determine the principle of social work. You cannot look at the norm within medical practitioners. I'm using that to engage the norms within the social workers community. What they do, who they serve, and all that are best and are different, and they are within different contexts, and they are within different culture. They are within, so they are not the same. I will also say that professional ethics consequences based ethics on outcomes, ideal based ethics on character principle, which determines the rule, the course, and the standards of that profession. I repeat, the professional ethics consequences based ethics, which determine the outcomes and ideal based ethics, and form the character principle based ethics, which are the rules, the codes, the standard. The summation of it all is the standard. The standard of social work practice can be found in the norms, the ethics, the principles of the profession. Now let's go a bit further to look at the basic principles and components of ethics. We have some components that we will need to discuss. We look at the principle of utility, the principle of rights, the principle of fairness, the principle of social justice, the principle of professional competency, the principle of efficiency, the principle of accountability, the principle of transparency, the principle of respectfulness, the principle of objectivity, and the principle of obedience to the law. I'm going to be looking at these principles, and it is necessary that we look at these principles because they are the things that defines our engagements, that defines our operations with the vulnerable or with our service user. How do we treat our service user as a person who is a social worker, not a person who is a nurse, not a person who is a doctor, not a person who is an accountant, even though all these elements are found in the works of the social worker. But as a social worker, as a trained and professional uh, social worker, these principles are very, very cogent for us to be able to uh, imbibe or follow to define our successes in our engagements with our service users. Now, what is the principle of utility? The principle of utility is that one that approves or disapproves of our actions and our inactions whatsoever. It talks about seeking happiness. Happiness of who? Happiness of our service users. The principle of utility ensures that at every moment in time, what we seek for is to ensure that those who come in dejected, those who come before us with some form of disability or the other, some form of depression, some form of battered life and living, as they come to us, what do we look at? What is our aim? What is our goal of engaging with them? It is to ensure the total wholeness of the service user, the total well-being of the service user. So that one come in dejected, depressed, angry, annoyed, battered, and is going out. At the end of your engagement with him, by the time you either ending your sessions with him, either you have to refer or you have to disengage at the end of your intervention, it is seeing that this person has become a totally transformed, a totally different, a totally whole somebody who is now happy and ready to engage with the larger society to ensure that things become meaningful to him and become responsible to himself, responsible and happy with himself, and then going out also to be responsible to others and happy with others. Those are our aim. Those are our goal. And that's why this principle is very, very important. The principle of utility. Utilize every minute, every moment. Utilize every idea. Utilize the ideas in the service user. Utilize the strength of the service user to give him back happiness, to give him back strength, to give him back ability to do better. You give them the courage for resilience built back in him or her. The second principle and component of ethics is rights, the principle of rights. This is a bit legal and it's also social, or the ethical principle, it is the ethical principle of freedom and or entitlement. It is normative rules of what is allowed of people or what is owed to people. At every point, part of our ethics is fighting for the rights of our service user. Well, we are not fighting anyway. We ensure that the rights of our service users or the vulnerable are given to them. What is owed to them is paid to them. The dignity that they ought to the right to their property, they have it. The right to their own lives, they have it. Every right, every fundamental human right of our service user, either by individual, by the state, by the family, by the workplace or job site, everywhere they find themselves, their rights must be protected. And that is why we must ensure that this principle is also foremost at the fore of our minds, so that we are looking at our service users, we are looking at their rights, and we are engaging their rights with the issues of the law. There is human rights law, and there is the guaranteed law of the nation for every citizen. Right to education, freedom of speech, and the likes. Basic living and the likes. We ensure that all these are we ensure that our service users get all of this where they are being denied or where it has been taken away from them to become who they ought to be. And these are some of the things that forms depression. Some of the things that make people to be poor, make people to feel that nobody cares for him or her and wants to come and commit suicide, and things like that. It is at the point of their right. Who are those infringing on the rights of my service user? Who are those? Is it the community that is infringing on his rights? Is it the family that is infringing on his rights? Is it the husband that is infringing on the rights? Is it the children that are denying him at old age of their support? Is there an abuse? And all those things, like that's why all the things we are sent to the platform about the issue of the law. Let's take time and look through them as well, because they will help us at determining who is right and who is wrong, or whose right is being infringed upon and whose rights is being trampled upon, and who is doing the right thing or who is doing the wrong thing. But this the center of the issue is that all rights return to the servicer where they are being denied. Number 3, we look at the principle of fairness. And this principle is what we also call the principle of impartiality or the principle of neutrality. The principle of impartiality and the principle of neutrality. It's closely related to the principle of rights. It deals with moral obligation, not to be free, not to free ideas. Not that people just come up with one idea that we trample on the rights or the ideas or the lives of others. Some people will just wake up and just begin to throw tantrum and say some things that will annoy others and say some things that could mean abuse to others and things like that. So the principle of fairness, we look at the merit of things, the merit of the life lived, the merit of the environment a person lives in, whether the social environment, the economic, the environmental environment, then the environment of culture. We look at all this and see what are the things that are there that is normal obligation, that is moral obligation for a person to live right and to live well within that culture, within that social environment, within that environment itself. Whether it's an environment of the school, whether it's a community like the community of the the widows community, or the community of the aged, or the community of people living with disability and things like that. Look at the moral obligation of how they are treated, the moral obligation of what is dispensed to them, the moral obligation of that person, the service user himself or herself. How is he or she uh, faring with others within his community, within his social environment, within his economic environment, within his family environment, within his workspace environment? So we look at the fairness, the obligation, and the rights of things that they are meant to uh, dispose to others, or what others should dispose to them. We said it is not to be free either. It is called the duty of fair play. No free meals. You know, some people will come to you and they will tell you about their husband, or someone, or their spouse. Some spouse will just come and talk here and talk and paint their husband very, very evil, or some husband will paint their wife very evil. But you've not heard from the other person. And if you start by dispensing treatment, or you start by engaging just one spouse without the other one being there for them to confront themselves and look at what the issues are. And sometimes it may mean that even the husband, the wife will be there, and each member of their own extended family also are there. So that, because when the issue of family arises, it also trickle to the extended family sometimes. So when it has prolonged like that, the issues have been prolonged like that, and people do not see correct answer to it, we need to bring other people who belongs to their environment together, so that we can look at the issues at face value and look at what is right and moral obligations of each person, and then be able to come to compromise. So the fairness must be there. In my language, they will say that you will not scrape the head of a person without him being present. It is only fair that he is present before you can begin to scrape his head. So because of that, the principle of fairness is germane to social work intervention. And within the ethics of social work, we are not biased. Where the principle of fairness is lacking, it means that there may be the issue of being of biasness in the matter, or subjectivity may be in the matter, and that will lack merit, and your treatment or your engagement may lack merit. So fairness is one thing that is very important. When a person comes and you clock the person, the next thing is to invite those who are concerned with the cauldron of the matter. So let's leave that and go to social justice principle. You know, the fact that as social workers, part of what we clamor for is social justice, equity. People should be treated with fairness. After fairness is equity. That is, to be treated equally. That is understood by us. Then let's go to the next professional competency principle. As social workers, our principles must be to always be at the fore of our profession. We must always ensure that the issue of competence is something that we cannot joke with. That brings us to the issue of training and retraining and retraining, studying and studying and studying. Social work profession is one of the professions because it has to deal with the life of human being. And human being changes every day. The person that is happy this minute and the next minute can be sad. and the next minute it can be moody, and the next moment it can start being chaotic, and the next moment is gentle as dove. And so because of that, our needs, our wants, our environment also change because we change. A cool environment now, when somebody who is toxic gets there, you will discover that it becomes a chaotic environment. So because of that, the issue of competence is very important. We study ourselves, we study our service users, we study their environment, and we ensure that what we cannot handle, we transfer to others. It's part of competency. Like we said at the beginning, social work engagement does not mean that you engage with a person from beginning to the end or until the person is discharged. No, you know where your strength is. Your strength is called your competency. And part of your strength is reasons why some have degree, first degree, some have masters, that is, they are now specialists, and some have doctors of social work or PhD, and like that. And sometimes you see, some people will just go for one small courses after they've had their specialist program or their first degree. They go for some courses in autism, courses in child development, courses in this. They are going for those courses. Why? It is to build competency, so that even as a generalist practitioner, anyone that comes to you, you know a bit and bit of what the issues are. You may not be able to handle the person as a specialist, but when you have been able to diagnose a person who has come to your agency and have been assigned to you, you look at the person, the person has been classed, you have built rapport with the person, and you have been able to diagnose the person. The result of your diagnosis may not be to the fact that you will be the one to now treat the person finally. Why? Because you are not a specialist in that area. If the person is talking about the issue of family property, you are not an estate surveyor and valuer. You should be able to know, oh, this area, and then this area is the area of estate surveying and valuing. Somebody is trampling on the right of this person because her husband died, and then the family wants to take away the husband's property or their property away from her. Then who should you consult, or who should be together with you in that intervention? Is a person who has a knowledge of estate, housing. They know all the rules and rudiments, but you don't know. You only know a little or a few of what the issues are. But a person who is an expert in that domain is invited. If you don't have such a person, or the government intervention or the ministry or agencies that the government have provided are there within the state and the nation, then as a social worker who knows, who is vast, who knows where what is, we should be able to give an information and a referral to that agency that deals with housing matter or that deals with property matter. And then you refer to that person. So the person is handled and his problems or challenges are solved. So that is part of competency. Competence does not mean that I am a social worker, I know what to do, this and that, I'm almighty. A social worker is not an almighty. He only knows bit and bit of what is to be done. And part of integrity, part of competency is to know where his own strength ends, where the other person begins, where his expertise ends, where the expertise of another begins, and so move the service user to the next person, or refer the person to the next person, or invite a person who is a specialist in that area into that intervention with him, so that they can sit together and listen, or treat the person together and the person receives justice. The person receives his right. The person also is treated fairly. And those who are involved with the issues on ground. Then the issue of efficiency. Efficiency is very, very important. You know, one thing that is killing us in Nigeria is this issue of efficiency. Effectiveness is not looked at, and we treat whatsoever belongs to other trivially. We trivialize uh, our work most of the time. Part of efficiency is time consciousness, time management. Part of efficiency is saying one thing and your service users knows that you have him in mind. Part of efficiency is to ensure that time is properly managed. Part of efficiency is to ensure that your competencies is put uh, uh, through the right channel. Part of competency is the way your office is arranged. Part of competency is the fact that all the accessories, all the equipment that you need for your work is available in your office. That is why when you go into social work office, sometimes you don't see a social work setting in those places. You will see the place like a normal civil servant office. Even some civil servant offices are even more than better than our social work office. Whereas our social work office or our intervention offices are supposed to be special, cruisy, and we're supposed to know what to request for. But many of us, when they are even asking at the beginning of the year to do our budgets, we don't know what to budget. We begin to budget for paper, budget for water, budget for this, and you don't know the social work equipments that are required of us. I think in foundation, this was taught at foundation level. That is part of the equipment required for social work office at diverse area, but we will not be treating it at this level, this final level. We assume that you know what equipment are required for social workers in their offices. A community development officer, there are certain equipment that is required in his office. A child protection officer, there are certain required equipment that is needed in his or her office. A social worker who is working in industries, there are certain equipment needed. One that is working with working in the medical area of social work, there are certain equipment that are required in his or her office. And just a part of what will make us efficient, effective in the delivery and service to our clients. And if we don't know about all these things that are required for our office, required for the engagement of our service users, then you will not be able to give them effective and efficient services. I've gone into some office before, and I just saw. I asked them. That was medical social work office like that in neighboring. I was asking, where is your file cabinet? They don't even have a file cabinet. Where are the files of each service user that you have been engaging with all these years? I entered the place, there was nothing like that. You see one just file, you just lose papers inside it. I said, don't you know that files are human being in absentia? The life of a man is in his file. The detail of a person, of a client or service user is in his file. So when he is not there, that person is present in your office. And you cannot treat that file anyhow, the way you will not treat him anyhow. It's just a file on the floor like that, anyhow. How can it be anything? And some of them even, they have their own private system or they have their own computer and they have office computer and they cannot even key information into the system that it becomes electronic. How efficient? So that when you are not there, by one reason or the other, then somebody who will be taking over that engagement from you will just tap and see. So that's, we have software that also is used for social work engagement. There are software, we need to look for them. So we use them, our work becomes easier. There is tele social work practice. How many of us are making use of that? Intervention these days is not just people coming to your office. There is tele. I know that in some areas in Lagos, at last week there, I know they have an aspect of social work. CCR, they have tele social work engagements. So it is not just everything food, everything physical and things like that. So how do you are a community development officer and then you know a community that you have been assigned to? Do you have the map of that community on your system? Do you have the mapping of that community on your system? Do you have the geogram of that area on your system? Do you have the phone number of other agents like the police, civil defense, military, and all those things, hospitals, ambulance? Do you have their phone number displayed on your system or displayed in your office so that at a glance or at a touch, you know where you are going to? Efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. If we want things to be better, we must ensure that we are efficient in our work. Is the ability to dispose of service. Is the ability to ensure clientele satisfaction. It's even the ability for even you to be satisfied working on that desk at a particular time or the other. It's a time that gives you ease, that gives you joy, that gives you pleasure, that makes your work to be bam. So let's leave that. We dwell a little on that. There's also the principle of accountability. The principle of accountability. You see that this course is about ethics and accountability. Accountability is very, very clear. A person who is the Lord unto himself will not be able to be the best because he will always think and say that all that he says and the way he handles things is the best. We must be accountable to first ourselves. We must be able to ask ourselves at the end of every engagement with service, have I, that's what we call reflective social work or reflective thinking or reflective service. Have I been able to say the right thing? Have I been able to satisfy my clients? What this person said at this point in time, did I hear it very well? How I responded, is it appropriate? The way I sat during that engagement, is it okay? The kind of dressing I put on around that at that period, is it befitting of that engagement? You accounting to yourself, how best can I perform next time? The next time any service users comes to my office, how did I welcome that person? How was my mood? And all those things. You are being accountable to yourself first and foremost, so that as you are reflecting on your service or engagement with this person, you are self-correcting. You are correcting yourself where you may. The tone that I used that when he said this, was the tone appropriate? Did the tone settle right with him or wrong with him? How did he respond? So you are self-accounting and you are self-correcting so that at the next engagement, you may need to comport yourself better, manage yourself better, manage your time better, manage your speech better, manage your interactions better, manage your things around. You need to manage everything. Your office. How was your office that time that the person entered? Was it started? Was it neat? The chair the person sat on, was it okay? You must, that is part of efficiency, and it trickles also to accountability. Did the person find rest when he came, or he was still jittery and things like that, or was able to calm the person down? You must account for yourself, to yourself, and you must be self-correcting. Apart from accountability, being accountable to yourself, you must be accountable to the service user. Apart from being accountable to the service user, you are accountable to your agency. To your colleagues. You cannot say my colleague is like this, and that's why I behave like this or like that. No. If your colleague behaves certain way, know that he's a human. You also, at a point, you may behave certain manner. So accountability is very, very important. We correct ourselves. We are accountable to ourselves that we can become effective. We are accountable to ourselves so that we can become efficient. We are accountable to ourselves so that we can become, you and your colleague now, you're accountable to your colleagues, whether upwardly or downwardly. You don't see yourself as the Lord. Even the supervisor should be accountable to the supervisee. You look at things together in a common way and see the best of things that you can do together and the best of service that can be given to the service user. There is accountability to your agency. You are accountable to your agency. You are accountable to your professional body. You are accountable to your local government. You are accountable to your state. You are accountable to your nation. You are accountable to your family, who allows you to do the work you are doing. You are accountable. So because of that, the issue of accountability is very key. And it is based on this that many people falter and they lose their licenses. So let's look at the principle of transparency. So it is the concept of openness, clarity, accessibility of information or processes. Our engagement with our service users must be transparent. It must be transparent. From the time they enter the gate of our agency or our office, everyone, or the door of your office, everyone within your facility must be able to follow due process. Are people welcome well even at the gates? Who are those at the gate? Did they receive training? This is an agency. Did they receive proper training as to how to receive visitors who even came to make inquiry, or depressed person? You go to a facility like that and you see people at the reception making jest of service users. Even those gate men, they will treat them sharply. They don't know the person who came, or whether the person is even a very important person in society. Because we will think that those who come to our facilities are just poor people that you can just treat anyhow. So you can't treat poor people anyhow. You treat them like kings. So that will rub off on a person who is important in society that you don't even know that a person like that coming there because of the way he just looks, and you don't know, and then you treat the person just anyhow. And you don't know that the person who comes to you, even though he is poor, you may have people who are big and mighty, who can do and undo. So because of that, there must be issue of transparency. What procedure is laid down in your agency for the engagement of service right from the gate to reception to the person who is in charge of ensuring that clients or services are allocated to you. And it must be open. The way you treat somebody who is coming from the presidency is the same way you treat a person who is coming from a ghetto. The way you treat a king or the son or daughter of a king is the same way you treat the son and daughter of a servant. There must be transparency. And when a person is assigned to you, do you own the person or you freely explain to the person and making the person to understand what you are doing and what the person is expected to take away from the engagement. At the beginning of our interaction, we must be able to say this. We normally tell social workers that when a person is assigned to you, the first thing is rapport. And during that rapport, there must be transparency, no lies. In fact, when I was working with the Office of the Public Defender, we have that culture at OPD. No lie. You know, last week we talked about the fact that truth is a major aspect of our intervention. The social worker being truthful to the service user being truthful to the social worker. And because of this, you should be able to interact with the person, welcome the person, tell the person about your facility, and ensure that the person is relaxed. If there is cold water, if the person wants cold water, let him go and dispense it by himself. Don't go and give it to him. It must be transparent because you can say that you are giving him something now. But when the person you dispense and you drank, and the person you have this water, please dispense. So the person sees what is in your office, the ones you can touch and the ones you cannot touch. Be plain, be truthful. And then you are telling the person, here there is no lie, here please, there is no cursing, here there is no abuse, here there is no this. So you are introducing the ethics of that office and the ethics of your engagement, the norms of your engagement with him or her. Everything laid there so that you will not say, but you didn't tell me this at the beginning. You mean that your engagement is shrouded in secrecy. So you ensure that, and when you are transparent, when you say all these things, the person comes to rest and is not looking at you as the Lord. So after you have been able to introduce yourself and what you do and what is expected during that engagement. So it's very important. So let's see this principle of respectiveness, respectfulness rather, respectfulness. And it means that respect is reciprocal. You must be able to respect your service users. It is whether you are older than him, whether he is older than you, whatsoever, whether they are more affluent than him or her, you must accord him or her respect. It is not just our service user we accord respect. We also accord respect to our colleagues. We accord respect to our seniors. We accord respect to our families. We accord respect to the professional body. We accord respect respect to each person that has to do with our engagement. And also, there's what we call self-respect. So respect yourself first. If you don't respect yourself and you can talk anyhow, behave anyhow, and people will just see you as this one is a flippant. No, that is why I think in intermediate there's a course that teaches that area in intermediate, but this is final. So professional examination. So if you want to know more about that, you can engage somebody who has gone through the intermediate. So let's take on the principle of objectivity. Objectivity. The principle of objectivity is based on social evidence. Social evidence. We must be objective, not subjective. In our dealing with our service users, we must be objective. We must not be biased. We must not take a person's right and give it to another. And that's the reason some social workers ensure that they turn down engagements with a service user that has been assigned to them. Why? Because it may be because they know the person. The person may be a family member. The person may be a neighbor. A neighbor. The person may be a party member. The person may be a club member whom they know. The person may be a church member whom they know, and they will not want to be biased. But there's no way relationship doesn't affect us. We are human beings. And that's why we say that if a person who is your relative is assigned to you, the person assigning you do not know that this person is related to you. You do what? You turn it down. You ask, please, can this be assigned to another person? Anyway, it depends on the agency that you work in. Sometimes there will be communal clashes in the community, and then people people may not know that you have affinity with that community. Maybe that's where your parents grew up, or that's where your parents are from, and then you have to go and mediate in that. And you see, blood is thicker than water, as they say, and there's no way you will not want to give support to the person or to the people who are from your area. So you turn it down. Ask for a neutral person to take over. The same way, in medical practice, they will tell you that a doctor or a nurse should not treat his husband or his spouse or even his children. Why are they saying so? Because emotions can take over. Emotions can take over. And we must be empathetic, not emotional. So based on that, we will discover that in social work, the principle is evidence-based, solid evidence-based, no bias opinion, no favoritism. You are not favoring somebody. What you are interested in is what we have said at the beginning. You are interested in the well-being, holistic well-being of the service user. How your service user will be a better person to himself, better person to his family, better person to his neighborhood, better person to his community, better person to his state, better person to the nation, and better person to the world at large, so that the world can be a better place for us to live in. So the objectivity principle is positioned on that. And let's look at the last one that talks about obedience to the law. And of course, we know the law is the law keeps the nation intact as a whole. The do's and don'ts, the norms and the rules of engagement within a vicinity, within a community, within a state, within a nation is entrenched in the law, and we must be people who obey the law. We must be people who obey the rules and help our service users to also obey the law. And everyone that has to do, whether the significant others of our service users or the family of our service users who have or stakeholders in that engagement, must always be taught to be obedient to the law, because in obedience to the law is the safety of each and every one of us. Where the right of a person is infringed upon, it means the law has been broken. Where a person is aggrieved, it means somebody has tampered with his rights or the other. So because of that, obedience is also very important. Obedience to the law. I know there are laws and rules of a profession which we must also look at. There are laws and rules within our agencies where we work. We must also be able to know it. There is a law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There is a law of a state. So even a local community have law. So because of that, we talked about competency the other time. Competency, you can see competencies in all these principles of ethics. All these principles and components of ethics, you can see competencies in each of them. So, are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We are together, sir. Yes, sir, we are together.
Okay, having
Yes,
looked
sir,
at
we're
the
together.
basic, all right, thank you very much. Having looked at the basic principles and components of ethics, let's move to code of ethics. What is code of ethics? I've been talking about ethics. There's a code. Ethics is embedded in a code. The code has numbers. The code has sections. The code has this and that. But there are also laws and rules of our behaviors, of engagements, our rights, whether it's normative or meta ethics. By normative ethics, we are talking about that are normal to. Somebody is again disturbing us. Please, can you mute your mic?
No.
So, a code of ethics is a statement which expresses the primary ethical value, obligations, and goals of the social work profession. We said again, the code of ethics is a statement which expresses the primary ethical value, ethical obligations, and the goals of the profession. We have looked at some of this at the last class. It is a ethics is a the code of ethics is a commitment which says to bear witness to our promise as a profession to uphold the values and ethical obligations expressed in the codes. It gives definition to our commitment to practice in ethical terms. Suffice to say that the code of ethics points out to us what the value of our practice should be, what premium we place on our practice, what premium we place on the service users that come within the space of our practice. And it talks about how we express ourselves before our service users. And it talks about our commitment to serving the vulnerable, our commitment to serving the service users, and our commitment to upholding the integrity of the social work profession. That is what you see as statements in the code of ethics of social work. If you go online on our website, you'll be able to see or download what the code of ethics of the social work profession is, as stated by the Chartered Institute of Social Work Practitioners of Nigeria. See, a code of ethics lay out clearly the profession's value and explain what they are in terms of what we ought to do in order to protect and promote the public good, and what we must avoid doing in order to prevent harm to the public. I hope you understood that. A code of ethics cannot guarantee ethical behavior. Moreover, a code of ethics cannot resolve all ethical issues or disputes or capture the richness and complexities involved in striving to make responsible choices within a moral community. And again, a code of ethics rather sets forth values, ethical principles, and ethical standards to which professionals aspire and by which their actions and inactions can be judged. Because of the social workers' ethical behavior should result from their personal commitment to engage in ethical principles. Let's move a bit further. Need for ethical behavior in social. Why do we need to practice ethically or put up ethical behavior in social work? One, because social work is a problem-solving profession. I said earlier when we started that because those we are engaged with or during intervention are human beings, majorly human beings. Even though environment alters, disturbs, changes our lives, or may change the way we behave sometimes because we are Janus-headed, like sociologists will say. We can say yes now and say no at the next moment. We can be hot now and the next moment we are cool. We are cold. In one moment we can be happy and the next moment we can be sad. And we try as much as possible to solve all these problems of human. Like I said in the last class, it is not just human being even, because animals are also involved as part of our life and living. The trees of the forest are also part of our life and living. That is why we have social workers in the environment, and we also have the domains of animals. And that's why we also talk about animal rights some of the time, and because we have also veterinary social workers, because the way we treat our animals also affect our moods or affect the way our children also grow up. I remember when we were small, they would tell us when you are holding a chicken or a fowl, you don't turn the head down. In fact, there was a time like that in the 70s when you are going on in the public and you are holding a foul and the head is turned down, you can be arrested. In the 70s, I remember that. I remember that sometimes I've heard like that, and my grandma would just tap me, no, hold it right, hold the head up. It is part of it, because before you know, you see a saliva coming out of the animal, things like that, and you see the mood, the emotions, and the life of the animal is also important. It affects us psychologically. Those who abuse animals, you have animals in your house and you abuse the animal, you can beat and throw stone and do this and that. And even in culture says that we cannot throw stone to birds. It is an abomination for us to throw stones to birds, to kill a bird. It is harm and abomination culturally. And because of that, because life is treated as sacrosanct, and we must be able to treat the life of another person in a certain manner of decorum, love, sincerity of purpose. So, because social work is a problem-solving profession, it's a need for ethical behavior, for our behavior to be guarded, for our behavior to also be seen as being right per time, even though sometimes it can go overboard, sometimes underboard, and sometimes because of our mood as well. That is why social workers also need to be social worked. Some of the time we don't take time to evaluate ourselves, we don't take time to check ourselves, and we don't take time to ask others of our colleagues to also evaluate us so that we put ourselves in certain frame of mind. Sometimes there's nothing bad when you're having a bad mood to say, please, this moment, give me some time, let me sort some issue out. Or you can, please, at this time, I would not want to engage with the service user. So because of that, you look at things and then you want to be correct, you want to be right, because you want to give the best of yourself to your service user. That is why ethical behavior is very, very germane to social work. Because social workers come across very and complex situations, situations that can make you cry, situations that can make you even be angry. You can meet situations that will make you to be confused. So because of all this, social work ethic is very important to checkmate us per time, or to make us to be reflective in our thinking, or reflective in our service, or reflective in our resolutions, so that we can become better to ourselves, better to our service user, and so that we don't rub the name of our profession in the mud, or so that we don't misrepresent the profession, or you don't misrepresent your agency. So ethical behavior is very important. So ethics helps professionals to act morally in difficult situations. When you are in tight corners and you know what the ethics of profession is, sometimes you pause to evaluate and be able to fall back in track. Ethics help professionals to act morally in difficult situations, yes. The need for such behavior in social work is important due to the following reasons. One, social workers during their interactions with service users and their significant others have to sensitive information. Two, social workers are often in situations where their decisions can cause serious damage to the service users. I hope you understand. Sometimes, as we interact with or engage with our service users or their significant others, there are certain information, sensitive information that must not be divulged if it is in the interest of the service users. And there are some sensitive information that needs to be divulged if it is touching life of others. You know, we talked about confidentiality. I think in 604, we'll be talking more on this. Don't mind, these three courses we are having at final level, they enter each other. They enter each other like that. And that is how, so that you can have a better understanding. What I will gloss through here will be totally and exhaustively discussed in other courses. Since the titles, the course titles are different and they are modeled to achieve different goal to bring the three courses into unison at the end of the day. So the three courses integrate into each other. So sensitive information, and we talk about confidentiality. Somebody who has sensitive information that must be divulged to the spouse. How do we handle such? Because we've had some information like that, and based on confidentiality, some people have gone to divulge the information at a wrong premise to the spouse of that person. And because of that, it caused chaos in the family because that information was not divulged by the right person to the right person at the right time. So social workers learn to manage information. Social workers are managers of information and are able to keep sensitive information and are able to maintain confidentiality. And you know, there's positive confidentiality and there's negative confidentiality. When the negative confidentiality comes, it means that it's affecting lives of others. Somebody told you that I'm going to kill that person tomorrow, and or I was the person that killed that person that they are looking for. I buried him somewhere. It's a sensitive information. How do you divulge it? You cannot. You cannot go and be telling the public anyhow. But there's a right channel, right agency that information can be divulged to, and it is treated professionally, so that the person will not go ahead and continue to kill more people. Social workers are often in situations where their decisions can cause serious damage to the people. That's what we have explained. 3, social workers occupy positions of authority in governmental and non-governmental organizations. We need this ethics. Why? Because social workers, like I said, people see workers as laws. You see people as saviors and things like that. We want to become friends of social workers and things like that. Why? Because of the sensitive position they occupy. Because some are policymakers, some are supervisors, some are at the top level of management, and both in governmental and non-governmental organizations. And because of this, and because of the profession, and because of the oaths of conformity to the ethics that you have signed or that you have pronounced or you have sworn to when you are being inducted as members of a professional body, you are bound to keep this statement of ethics that guides or surrounds the social work profession. Social workers are often in position where they can allocate resources. Social workers are often in positions where they can allocate resources. So there are many areas of social work that we are not seeing now, or the government is not seeing that they are social work positions. You know, you have heard about traders' money, all this social insurance, all this student loan, and things like that. These are social work positions. Social workers are expected to be managers of those funds, are managers of distribution of those funds, because they are the ones who knows the people in the community the most. We have social workers in every local government in Nigeria as we speak. And social workers are the highest employers. I mean, social work provision is the highest employer of labor in Nigeria. If we bring, because it is not just in the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, it's not only in humanitarian and things like that. We have social work just in other areas, in health, in industries, in schools, so we have social workers scattered all around in many ministries, departments, and agencies. We have them. But because social work is just starting, we can still condone some, but later on, social work will begin, or social workers will begin to take their rightful place. So we allocate resources, and social workers have to preserve professional autonomy. Professional what? Autonomy. That is very important. I used to tell nurses that when I used to train nurses in those days, the nursing profession is an autonomous profession. MBA, Medical Association, is it MA? NMA is also an autonomous profession. Social work is an autonomous profession, but all work together. Psychologists are autonomous profession. Physiotherapists are autonomous profession. So, but all work together as members of multidisciplinary team when they find themselves in certain cauldron of practice. So because of that, social workers are to maintain autonomy. You cannot go and do the work of a physiotherapy. You cannot go and do the work of a nurse. You cannot go and do the work of a medical laboratory, or you cannot go and do the work of a nutritionist. Even though all this could be found in social work. Why? Because you have to work with them. So you know a little about it. You have to make referral to them. So you know a little about those conditions when you see them. It is not for you to treat, it is for you to refer. Because you know how to check somebody's BP does not make you to prescribe drug. If you check somebody's BP and you know how to check it, should you now dispense drug? Do you now recommend drugs? It is to push the person to a medical practitioner. Even when doctors have finished their prescription, they will not come and give you the drugs by themselves. They tell you go to the pharmacist. The pharmacist will not be able to dispense the drugs appropriately. If what the doctors wrote is not available, they know the combinations in other drugs that will also serve or better serve that condition to be treated. And they will give you the drugs, they give you the injection, but a pharmacist will not inject you. You go to the nurse for injection to be administered on you. So all these are autonomous professions. They know where they begin, they know where they end. They know what their rights are, they know their responsibilities. The same way with social work practice. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
We are
Yes, sir.
together.
We are together.
Yes,
We are
sir.
together, sir.
We are together.
Yes, sir.
We are with you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. We are with you.
Okay. All right, sir. Let's now look at.
We are with you, sir.
Let's look at 6 purposes that social work ethics serve. We're looking through the statement of National Association of Social Workers. The first is the code identifies core values on which social work's mission is based. 2, the code summarizes broad ethical principles that reflect the profession's core values and establishes a set of specific ethical standards that should be used to guide social work practice. Part of this we have seen before. 3, the code is designed to help social workers identify relevant considerations when professional obligations conflict or ethical uncertainties arises. 5, the code provides ethical standards to which the general public can hold the social work profession accountable. Number 5, the code socializes practitioners new to the field to social work's mission, value, ethical principle, and ethical standards. It's a way of socializing a new entrant into social work profession. So when you go around or when you try to read the statement, it makes you be more familiar with what is expected of you in the social context of social work profession. And it's also ensure that you are accountable to your profession, accountable to your colleagues, accountable to your friends, your family, accountable to your practice. It ensures that you perform the moral obligation of serving the yeah. And number 6, the code articulates standards that the social work professional itself can or herself can use to assess whether social workers have engaged in unethical conduct or not. So those are the 6 principles of the code of ethics. Let's look at values and ethical principles of social work. There are 6 and more, but let's just look at the core principles of social work. We have service to humanity. I believe I'll just gloss through this. I will not explain it in detail because I know that we have been coming across it right from our foundation days or 4th degree or even at master's level. We have always come across this. Many of us have gone through trainings. We have come across this needless explaining so much. So we have our core values, value of service to humanity, social justice, dignity and worth of the person, importance of human relationship, integrity, competence. We talked about that. So we look at the values of service to humanity. That value is called service to humanity. And every value has its own principle. Do we understand? The values are the 6 we mentioned, and sometimes they are 9 or 11. So, but we are looking at these 6 core values. If you go to our website, you will see more of those values there. But for now, we are looking at this 6 assignment for you. Check more on the values of the social work. So, service to humanity, the principle of value to humanity is 1, social workers' primary goal is to help people in need and to address social problems. 2, social workers elevate services to others above self-interest. 3, social workers draw on their knowledge, values, and skills to help people in need and to address social problems. 4, social workers are encouraged to volunteer some portion of their professional skills with no expectation of significant financial return. Let me emphasize on that last one, volunteerism. You are not a social worker if you are not volunteering your time in service to humanity, to others, or to communities, or to neighborhoods around you. Some of us who are working in ministry, department, and agencies, we say that, my salary is not enough, this and this and that. Let me tell you, part of the money that the government pays you as salary is that part of money is meant for volunteerism. That's what they call it, consolidated salary. Consolidated salary. So it is expected that at least 2, 3, or 4% of your salary should also be used to serve others. And social workers that are not engaging in volunteerism, whether in your community and that, they are not doing social work, because when you are looking, when we are employing and we look at your curriculum vitae, and as social worker, we don't see there volunteerism, we keep it aside first. That this one does not know what social work is. Are you understanding? Part of the evaluation of your curriculum vitae, what they look for is how many days or hours in a month or in a year have you taking time to volunteer. Whether you volunteer in going to a school and teaching them about something else that is needed, or you go to do advocacy, or you have an agency or an NGO where you go and volunteering your service, or there are some certain needs in some community, and you raise advocacy for such needs to be provided, and you may even be in your own community. So ensure you volunteer. You know, sometimes some people will come to me and say, "Hey, Mr. Telephone, you need job or this and that." I said, "Presently, what are you doing for yourself? What are you doing?" They will say, "I'm not doing anything." No, I said, "Then you don't need anything," because people will be shocked when I say that. I said, if you are not useful to yourself, why do you think you can be useful to others? If you cannot help others to achieve their goals, what goals do you have to achieve for others? Because it is in volunteerism that you look for the interest of others. And social work is meant for the interest of others. We serve the interest of others in spite of who we are, or in spite of what we have, or in spite of how we are. Sometimes our weekends can be spent advocating for some things, teaching children, doing this and that. But make sure that it is something, an agency that is recognized. Make sure, even in your office, you can volunteer some things. People are working in ministries, and then the city is going wrong. Then it's government work, this and that, and they will not take time out to say, "Oh, this is what can be done." So one of the things I did when I first got to my present office is I looked at it. I said, a community big as this, of more than 1,500 workers, does not have an opportunity to interact. I started a WhatsApp group for the community. I call it Fredcoten Community. I call it Fredcoten Family. That's my work, my office there. So Fredcoten Family. And I just started like play, adding those who have their numbers, who are close to me, my friends, and this within the establishment. I'm just adding their names. Before you know it, other people are coming to me. I add my name to that FF. Add my name. Until, as we speak now, about 98% of the people working in our establishment are on that special committee. And the management now took it over from me and handed it to the public relations unit. That's how it started. And if you want any information about the committee, you will see it there first. Then I was going about taking pictures and posting it whenever department, whenever the students are doing something, I will be there I'll take nice pictures and post it and tag it and do everything there. People are reading news. There was no newsletter available. So I became like a journalist of the community. So that's part of volunteering, and it's on my CV because it's an achievement that now the management took it over. Even when they took it over, I wasn't doing it again. It's them that are doing it. But when there is a change of baton of public relation officer, they will revert back to me and say, "I tell you, continue this thing for us." So I will continue. So people still see me as working, like as if I'm working with the PR unit, but I'm not a staff of the PR unit. But because I was the foundation of it that brought the whole community together. So they can still trust me, even when I don't belong to that department, to still assist them to continue in that state of the good work we started. So that's part of volunteering. If you look at my CV, you'll see it there. That is about community cohesion. Community cohesion. Okay? So let's look at the second value, social justice. I said that 20-30 minutes will be left for those who have comments, questions, confession, and the likes. So in the next 7 minutes, I'll be opening for us to talk. So social justice, let's look at that's the value. Social justice, we'll look at social workers, the principle of social justice. Social workers challenge social injustice. Social workers pursue social change, particularly with and on behalf of vulnerable and oppressed individuals and groups of people. 2, social workers' social change efforts are focused primarily on issues of poverty, unemployment, discrimination, and other forms of social injustice. 3, these activities seek to promote sensitivity to and acknowledge about oppression and cultural and ethical diversity. Number 4, social workers strive to ensure access to needed information, services, and resources, equality of opportunity, and meaningful participation in decision-making for all people. The value, dignity, and worth of the person. What are the principles behind the dignity and worth of the person? 1, social workers respect the inherent dignity and worth of the person. 2, social workers treat each person in a caring and respectful fashion, mindful of individual differences and cultural and ethical diversity. 3, social workers promote clients' socially responsible self-determination, and social workers seek to enhance clients' capacity and opportunity to change and to address their own needs. To have said it, we make sure that clients or services attain or address their own needs. It is not our needs, it is their needs. They are the one who is in the shoe, who are in the shoe that is pinching them. We only help them using our theories, experiences, and the life to help them form knowledge, give information, and the life to ensure that they make better alternative options that is best for them. So social workers are cognizant of their dual responsibility to clients' interest and the broader society's interest in a socially responsible manner, consistent with the values, ethical principles, and ethical standards of the profession. Let's look at the value of importance of human relationships. What is the principles that is behind that value called importance of human relationship? Social workers recognize the central importance of human relations. We are to bring about human cohesion, not human disintegration, not relationship disintegration. We are to bring cohesion. We are to bring people together, not to scatter people. Social workers understand that the relationship between and among people are an important vehicle for change. 3, social workers engage people as partners in the helping process. 5, social workers seek to strengthen relationships among people in a purposeful effort to promote, restore, maintain, and enhance the well-being of individuals, families, social groups, organizations, and communities. We look at that value called integrity. Then, what is the principle behind this value called integrity? Social workers behave in trustworthy manner. 2, social workers are continually aware of the profession's mission, values, ethical principles, and ethical standards, and the ethical practice in a manner consistent of them. Underline, in a manner consistent of them. And number 4, social workers act honestly and responsibly and promote ethical practices on the part of the organization with which they are affiliated. Then let's look at competence. What is the principle that is behind this value called competence? 1, social workers practice within their areas of competence and develop and enhance their professional expertise. 2, social workers continually strive to increase their professional knowledge and skills and to apply them in practice. 3, social workers should aspire to contribute to the knowledge base of the profession. You know what we are doing with this SWPCE 608 seminar presentation is about this issue of competence that we have just mentioned. And this last one, social workers should aspire to contribute to the knowledge based on the. That's why we are saying that whatsoever we are writing as a seminar to be presented should be clinical based or practice based. What you have been doing, what some of you have been doing, I know that some of you have been on social work desk and some have not been, but some have ideas, are working in NGOs and things like that. You can get data. You have problems being brought to you, whether you're community, industrial, school, medical, social worker. You have problems that people have been bringing, and you can use that as seminar. The only thing is to go online and look for literature review that talk about that same problem. But the method to go about your seminar is what you also should scout for. And the data to be used is something you have been working on for many years. So a practical problem that is existing or that have been existing, or that you think is a problem within a community or within a people, is what you look for. It is practice. Like if you are working on domestic violence desk, just look for a topic around that domestic violence. Or if you have been working in a school, look for the social behavioral attitude of students or drug abuse among students. If you have a guidance and counseling room, you will have data from there. If you have social work clinic, you have data from there. If you have a school social worker within a school, you have data from that social worker. If they have been treating their work well and have data and have been keeping their documents and they are keeping their files safe, it's just for you to go into that and look for data. So you don't need to stress yourself. So, and by that, you are solving some problems. And you are giving information out to the populace, to the government, to service users, to their significant as well, through your writings. Let it not be told that you have spent 10, 15, 20 years on social work desk and you have not written a book, and you have not written down your experience, what you have experienced on that desk. So it's part of competence, which must be harnessed. So by next week, we'll be looking at the ethical principles screen, EPS, as propounded by Lowenberg and Doldorf in 1996. So we're starting from there next week. Let me pause from here. If you have any contribution, if you have any question, if you have any confession. So we may unmute and raise it for a general discussion in the class. My principle is that now each one will any question raised will be thrown to the class for us to deliberate, and then we'll look at how we all answer these questions together. So,
Hello, sir.
yes, please.
Hello, sir.
I'm with you.
Okay, good evening, sir. My name is Mrs. Madojemo. I want to ask, I work in the hospital. Yes,
sorry,
sir.
I'm
Yes,
curious. I'm curious. You know, I used to call this name Madojemo.
yes,
Yoruba
yes,
or
sir.
Delta or where?
It's Edo.
Oh, Edo. Okay. Which
Yes,
part
sir.
of
Yes,
Edo?
sir. Yes, sir. I work in the hospital, and sometimes social workers use their finance, their money, their time to look for patients, those that are referred, those that they want to communicate with their families. Will you categorize that as a voluntary service? When you spend your finance on a patient, would that be called a voluntary service?
Okay. Okay. I think last week I answered a bit of what you just asked. I said the first thing is for us to know that social workers are not philanthropists. I started
Okay.
defining between philanthropist and philanthropic social work. And I also put a balance that there's no way a social worker also will not spend part of his own or her money in the service that he or she renders. I think I've also mentioned it when we're talking about volunteerism that, oh, it happens as well. But these are things that you cannot record. So you cannot say it is volunteerism. That is part of your work. You are
Okay.
only doing charity. Because normally your agency is expected to provide for that. They're supposed to have a boss that will be used for such purpose. In so many areas, you see that other departments will give them cars, give them a boss, but for social work, nothing will be given. Why? Because the social workers are not pressing. If you press today, you press tomorrow, you press, and then your letter is piling and piling. Question. That's why you must know what your I've mentioned it in the course of this lecture. Your equipment are that will make yourself easy, that will make you efficient and effective. A car or a bus for the social work department is a necessity. The worker should not be using his money or our money to be looking for significant orders for the families of service users. It's not right. So because of that, you know, this issue of bureaucracy and issue of fear and things like that, we have social workers who are in the directorate cadre who are to press for this thing. Social workers who are in the supervisors cadre who are to press for these things. And you also have what they call it impress. If it is done in your establishment, they give impress to departments. The impress given to your department, what is it used for? That is if they give, if they do. But if they don't, it's a different topic entirely. Because when you are doing, when you are drafting your needs or the budget for your department, those are the kind of things that consistently should be on the budget of your department. And you must be able to defend it. How will you defend it if you don't have records? And that is why record is very important. We taught record in foundations, record keeping, record building, and all those. We taught it in foundations. So if you don't have records, you don't keep your records, you don't have data to support your requisition, how will it be provided? Many of us say, we have asked. You go and ask with the word of mouth. And we don't go objectively, scientifically, with evidence that these are things that are actually needed. So, but many of us just look at it, but because those who are doing on those desks are not professionals, they don't know what to ask for. They don't know how to press their use memo to make their request. You ask them, how many memo have you written? You are asking for this, you have written memo to who? Up to your management. How? For them to know that this is very important. And you lay it precept upon precept and defend it and raise advocacy for it. Now there is a social worker in Castina, one of our members in Castina. She was facing this kind of problems. She started as she has written and written, nothing was done by the management. And they have service users in hundreds, thousands, vulnerables, that you need money even to get their drugs, need money for their discharge, need money for even feeding and things like that. So the person before her, before she took over, was like a just can show you know, which concern government work syndrome. And you don't have satisfaction on your work. And you don't have power of efficacy to ensure that your work speaks for you. So what she did when she took over was to start advocacy about the needs of the clients or service users in the hospital who are using the social work facility, social welfare facility in the hospital. So there is advocacy among his own people, among staff. So the staff that will be at the management level where decisions are made, she will go there and beg them, my client, she will tell you, my client. It's like, because she's the head, she's my client. Say, my client is in need of this, please, can you give us some money, help us, we are contributing this. So they also contribute. So next time when the request will go to the management, that person, when he has given today, that we will go back to him tomorrow when he asks him, he is the one that will not defend that proposal, even if she's not there. Because they are seeing what she's doing, and she has her records. Every cover collected and dispensed, she has record, and she gives account of all this, even to management. She has people outside who she advocate to for contributions and all those things. She will write letters to them and all those things like that. And they will make contributions. Some will bring things to be distributed and all this. And that's how she grew that department. She's still the head of the department now after about 10 years. Because they could not make her to leave. because even the management they are not giving so much. At the end of the day, they were giving little. Now they are saying is our work, and now others come in. Politicians will invite her. They are just bringing in things. They are giving money. All of this, and she has records. They have pharmacists outside when drugs are not available in the hospitals for the service users who are using social work facility there. They will make requisition, and they know how to transfer the money and all those things that have evidence and receipted. Everything in transparency. You talked about transparency. Everything being transparent. And at the end of the year or quarterly, she gives accurate record of what she does. It's not only she, with a team of social work desk officers. And she has gone to receive awards so many times, even in the States, with the way she handles the service. And she also, from there, she has her own NGO for widows now that is booming. So you see, starting by being caring. So what we are saying is that there's no way our social workers will not spend a little of what we receive as salary on our service user, but we are not philanthropists. We are not to always engage. We should look for advocacy, sensitization, and be able to write programs on how we can sum up opportunities for our service users to be satisfied or be helped. I hope that answers a bit of your question.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you, sir, for
Good
the
evening.
answers, sir.
So I have a question, sir.
Okay.
I made it unable, sir.
Okay.
So my question is, in an organization where you have a worker and in the process of work, he develops an ailment. He's hypertensive, from there he has stroke, and the same office, they are talking about workers' welfare. Then, because of his ill health, he could not come to work for some time. And his salary is now reduced. And psychologically, he is down to the extent in that condition, he drives himself to work. He doesn't want to accept the reality that they have cut down his salary. He believes coming to work will make them change their mind. And this is not forthcoming. So in such a situation, how can you mediate between this worker and the office that he's now coming to work under that situation because he doesn't want to lose his job, and his salary has been, cut down, and he's still coming to work. Sometimes he drives himself to office with one hand. So in this case, as a social worker in that office, how can you mediate between the worker and the agency? Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. You know, when we started, we talked about self-accountability. We said each one of us should be self-accountable. In any work environment, there are rules and there are provisions. I know that industrial law clears some of the things you are saying now. If you look at some of the things we posted to you on the platform, it's about industrial law. If you read it very well, you know how to advocate for the right of this person. There's something we call in social work as solidarity, comradeship, solidarity. What are social workers in that establishment, what have they put up as advocacy for her? Are they just looking at her? From what you are even saying, you are indicting yourself. If you are in that organization. You are indicting yourself and you are indicting the organization. Why am I saying so? Because you are doing what is wrong. You are seeing the fact that somebody has stroke and is driving with one hand to work, and you even see him like that. What about if an accident occurs and other life goes with her? So you see that there are many things that we overlook. There are many things we treat as if, hey, it is not me that is concerned, but it can concern you tomorrow. But this person, while working, does she normally go on leave? While working, is there a routine check, psychological routine check? In my DSW dissertation, I worked on the secondary traumatic stress for social workers in Nigeria. And part of the things fall out of that research is that social workers don't rest and they don't self-examine themselves. And they don't use the health facility adequately enough. Because stroke will not just happen to somebody. It starts with high blood pressure. As I speak, I also have high blood pressure. And in my work, they know me in my clinic. Each time I have one small sign, I tell you, like coming to the clinic, I say, yes, I'm your friend. Why? Because I have to take my drugs. Since I'm on NHIS, health insurance scheme, and I go there, how much do I pay for my BP drugs? They'll do my checkup and all those things. When they are giving me drugs, they tell me to go and pay 20 naira. But we have social workers in our facility who will not even do that. They will wait till that thing will enter their body and there is crisis. So that is why we say social. I mentioned, I said social work also needs to be social work. I think I mentioned at the beginning of this lecture. We need to take care of ourselves. If we don't take care of ourselves, how do we take care of others? If we are careless about ourselves, how can we be careful about service users? I'm sure many service users must have come to a person like that with their down in their health, and she must have provided solution. And here is she down with her health as well. So we are supposed to look for the good of our colleagues. That is why we are professional associates or professional colleagues. Part of what I recommend in my dissertation is that, like every person who goes to check his vital signs, because medical personnel tell us to always check our vital signs at least every month, like that. Our social workers also encourage to check their psychological health every month. Do we form a cartel or a group? Or what are the roles of supervisors in the social work practice? It is an IPE 409 social work programming that we have that in intermediate professional examination, that we have that course. Do supervisors care about their supervisees, or they are just supervisors by mouth? Supervisors have to look at the work, what the work of a supervisees, what they are doing. It is not just their work, it's to look at their life. It's also to be mindful of those who work with them. When you see a sign, raise it with that person. And there is a chart that is used for that. And I recommended that also in social work agencies. That chart should be made available to all social workers to be able to diagnose themselves. It will tell them when they are truthful to themselves and truthful to their work, when they sincerely fill that chart, it will tell them, give them the result, whether they are under pressure, whether they need rest, or whether they need to take a break, or whether they need the service of other professionals, like medical practice and all these things like that, to take care of them. But we don't do that. But we are forgetting that secondary traumatic stress is the bane of destruction of social workers. That is the stress that comes as a result of treating the stress of others. The impact of the stress of others on compassionate engagement of social workers. So we have to look at all this. And as we are raising this now, I believe you will learn one or two things. To be able to stand for your colleague, advocate for your colleague, and ensure that justice is served to him, that his rights are given to him. We have mentioned all these things, that equity and fairness is rendered to him or her, and security of his life or her life and security of people on the street also matters a lot. So we look at all these things and be able to put up a front on her behalf so that justice can be served, so that her right can, so that she can also be at rest. Having served others, she's neglected, and every other person is doing going their own way as if she means nothing. And she has families, and she uses the same road as we use. She comes to the office and sit, and people will be looking at her.
Yes, sir, he has.
So we need to look at all this and be able to do the right thing. I hope I've been able to say a few things that could assist us at helping our colleagues.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful, sir. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Okay, if there is no contributions, corrections, confessions, I beg that we call it a day till we meet next week Friday.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
please.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. We are very grateful, sir.
Have a nice weekend.
Please, sir, when are we getting our
Thank you,
handout?
sir.
Thank
Have
you.
a nice
Thank you,
weekend.
sir.
Thank
Your handout
you.
is on
Getting the
your
handout.
list.
Sir, please, we need handout for this course, oh.
It's on the
Has
it's
been
on the
sent.
platform. On the platform.
It's on
I've
the
been sent
platform already.
2 weeks
It
ago
has
or
been
so.
sent to the platform.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Just tell members of your class or your group to send it to you. I think we have 2 out of 3 of those courses on the wall of the class. Please, those who have not sent in their project, their seminar topic, I need it this night. Oh.
Okay, sir.
All right, sir.
Okay. Our course mates from Lagos State University are on excursion. That's why they are unable to join us today. They are on excursion to Badagry today and tomorrow. So they are not able to join us. They're taking permission to join us next week. All right. Thank you. God bless you.
And you too, sir.
And you too, sir. Wonderful weekend. Thank you, sir.